Jay, I am so excited about our conversation today. I want to remind people that as the conversation goes on, especially on the super text line, if you have a question, a legal question, any legal question, Jay will do his best to answer it. What do you like to say about your answers to these questions, Jay?
Well, I'm often wrong, but never in doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Free legal advice is worth exactly what you pay for it.
So line those questions up. Ask them at your leisure, 615-737-9986. And we will, I'll get to some of those questions toward the end of our conversation during this hour. Jay, I want to start with a little bit of a curveball. I want to talk about this case down in Columbia. It's very important. But the Biden administration is now kind of taking another dip on this student loan forgiveness. Did you see that today?
Right. I've seen the announcement. I haven't had time to do any legal analysis of it, man. But I did see that. They're going to go under a totally different direction. There was a law that's been in place for a long time that would reduce or maybe eliminate how much debt they have to repay if they've been paying on it for 20 years and they hadn't got it all paid off. And I think they have to be below certain income levels.
Right.
But I don't know if that's a law passed by Congress or a regulation passed by the Department of Education, or if they're taking liberties with the way that law was written. So I really can't say anything intelligent about that in this conversation.
But it seems to me, and you tell me if my instinct is correct, this is the Biden administration saying, okay, we need to see what we can do with this Supreme Court ruling around it. We need to figure out if we can get around that ruling in any way and still offer some repayment forgiveness. And I think they want to try to present this from a political lens as, hey, we're doing everything we can to try to make this happen.
No, I think that's right, Matt. And so here's my first thought about it, without getting into the details a little again. If it was crystal clear that they had the authority to do this, why are they only doing it now?
Why didn't they do it first?
You're exactly right. It's a reaction to losing the case in the Supreme Court. Well, if you clearly had this power, why didn't you do it 2 years ago?
Right. That's a great thought.
Why wasn't this your first thought? This isn't their first thought. It's their second thought. And so that tells me that there's some problems with it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, it just broke out earlier today, but I was curious if you had seen that. I love it's that lawyers are involved, but it's so political in nature. And you're dead on. Right. Why didn't you think about this 2 years ago? If you could have gone ahead and done this and then do the other thing simultaneous, why didn't you?
Exactly. No, that's exactly right.
Jay, I asked you last night to take a look at this case because there's aspects to this case in Columbia that bother me. First and foremost, as we try to do when we reset for new listeners, no one is defending the actions of these individuals. They're disgusting. There are two people, and they are now in custody, two suspects, and we don't know if there are any more involved. For those who have not heard this story, it comes out of Columbia. These individuals targeted a number of different locations, including some African-American churches as well as a food truck, where they placed flyers on these properties. The Columbia Police Department is now saying that it's a 38-year-old man and a 17-year-old male arrested yesterday around 4:30, charged with civil rights intimidation involving the placement of these flyers. The arrests came as a result of working with members of the community who helped identify the suspects. Police are not saying whether or not they plan on charging them with any further charges, but currently they're being charged with, once again, civil rights intimidation. And I have to admit to you, Jay, I'd never heard of that.
Right.
So
well,
and I could read the flyer again. I know you've read it, and I can pull it up here, but just I want to talk about the First Amendment and how it feels like the government of the United States of America is loath to get involved with someone's First Amendment rights to free speech. But there are boundaries, obviously, that you can't go beyond in terms of your speech and how it affects other people, right?
Well, that's right. And the boundary that this law draws, Matt, is if you are coercing. These are the technical terms. and it matters. The specific words matter. That you can't, if you threaten somebody or coerce them, intending to intimidate them from exercising their rights, that's what's illegal. Threaten or coerce somebody to intimidate them to not do something that they can do. It reminds me, I'll give you the perfect example of coercion or intimidation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A Christmas Story, like that great Christmas movie.
Uh-huh.
And there's this little guy, I guess they would call toadies, I think. And then he's got a big guy, a big buddy with him.
Right.
And I've forgotten what our hero's name is, but it's in the dead of winter, and they're walking to school. And I got a better one. Opie, some kid is telling Opie if he doesn't give him his milk money, his nickel,
yeah,
he's going to give him a knuckle sandwich.
Yeah.
That's intimidation.
Isn't that the one where Opie keeps going back to Andy for more money?
Uh-huh.
And then
for a nickel.
And then eventually, yeah.
They figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the guy never hits Opie. Well, not till the end. But he threatens him. He says, if you don't give me your milk money, you're going to get a knuckle sandwich. I remember that's exactly what he threatened him with.
Mm-hmm.
So that would violate this law, that kind of behavior. So here, these people, I've forgotten exactly what the flyer said, Matt. But
well, I want to read it just for those who have not seen it, just to make sure we kind of set it up. So the flyer, it includes an emblem of some Klan guy. And it says, Invisible Empire, the Old Glory, Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And then on one side it says, Heritage, not hate. And on the other side it says, Fight for what's right. And then it says, you have been paid another social visit by the Old Glory, Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. We have a dark history here, and because of you, a bright future. Be warned. Race traders, mixed breeds, communists, homosexuals, and all other walks of godless degeneracy, the Klan is back again and here to stay, so you'd better make amends or stay away.
I think that violates this law, man.
You know what? I'm going to jump on the other side of this argument because I didn't think it did, but, the laws are on the books for a reason, right?
I think that is a threat to injure them. Conjuring up images of the KKK, that goes a little bit there. But to me, the words that make the difference are "you are warned."
Right.
But particularly putting those two together,
mm-hmm.
man, we are the current KKK. These are the people we hate. If you don't change your ways, you have been warned. And they don't
necessarily have to say what's going to happen. It's just the warning itself that could create the coercion.
Well, that's right, because it's obvious, right? I mean, they're threatening violence, because that's where the KKK becomes relevant, because everybody knows what that means. That there is a whole lot of content. The three letters KKK communicates a bunch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A bunch. And so we're from the KKK. We know what you're up to. You're hereby warned, you better change your ways. I think that violates this law, man.
What do you make of, is there a danger that the law itself, just in general, can be, I assume, I don't know when it was passed, but I assume.
Well, it was actually, the history of all this is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
This law was passed in 1990.
Okay.
And we can get into the whole history of these so-called hate crime laws. It's really a kind of interesting history, and it's odd to me that the state of Tennessee passed one, because here's what it's all about. I'll just try to give this in a short little snippet. It is a fact that historically, in mostly southern states, a lot of times whites were not criminally prosecuted for crimes against blacks. That is a historical fact. And the people in Washington, D.C. said, well, if the states aren't going to do something about it, then we got to do something about it. And they were, in effect, intending to federalize all of criminal law. They really don't have that authority, because they're only supposed to govern things that affect interstate commerce. But the Commerce Clause has just about been written out of the Constitution. So they passed the first law in 1968. And it was in direct response. I think it was an event in Mississippi, maybe a lynching or something like that, where the state just refused to prosecute the people. And so the feds said, well, we're going to create a federal crime. We'll base it on civil rights. And if the states aren't going to prosecute people, we are. That's where all this so-called hate crime stuff started, man. And then since then, it's a little odd to me that states are passing hate crime laws. But I looked here, this law goes further than just the general criminal law in Tennessee, because the assault, you commit assault in Tennessee if you knowingly cause another one to reasonably fear imminent bodily injury. If you reasonably fear imminent bodily injury. Well, that's a higher standard than what's in this law. You violate this law if you threaten somebody just with the intent to unlawfully intimidate them. They don't have to be worried about imminent bodily injury.
So let me read this. This is pretty interesting, the way that they word it. And you've hit all over. A person commits the offense of intimidating others from exercising civil rights who, 1, injures or threatens to injure or coerces another person with the intent to unlawfully intimidate another from the exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured by the Constitution or laws of the state of Tennessee. And you go back to the flyer, and the flyer says, well, you've been paid a visit, and be warned.
Those are the key words.
Yeah, right.
Key
words. I agree. And those words are in big letters. They're bigger letters than any other part of the flyer. So they knew they wanted that to be the point of the flyer, right? Be warned, race traders, mixed breeds, communists, homosexuals, and all other walks of godless degeneracy. The Klan is back again and here to stay, so you'd better make amends, telling them they have to do something or stay away. And I, now that I've read, and I was we talked yesterday, Jay, and I wasn't sure that these two had violated this law. But you talking about it today, I think I'm swinging to the other side of this, and I think I agree with you that they're in violation.
Be warned.
Yeah.
Those are the key words. Be warned. Well, warned of what? Well, physical violence, either property destruction or physical violence, right? That's what the warning is. Well, they're not going to say, be warned, we may call you names.
Right.
We're going to say something bad about you on Twitter. We're going to get Orange Man Bad to send you a mean tweet. That's not what they're saying, man. And so there's a big difference with this, and maybe the most extreme example of the exercise of First Amendment, the Westboro Baptist Church.
Right.
What they do is awful, man.
I agree.
They go to funerals of service people. I think I'm remembering this right. But they have to stay a couple of 100 yards away. They can't get right up next to the casket or the service, and say the awfulest, vilest things about it. But they don't threaten.
Right. And Jay, I just looked at the clock, and Mason's waving at me. Hold your thought there. I want to get back to the Westboro Baptist Church in just a moment. Jay St. Clair is with us.
Thank you for remembering that.
That's pretty cool. But yeah, if you follow Jay on Twitter, and it's a little difficult to get to him, it's at ST Jay St. Clair, right?
Yeah, I forgot. Somebody took my name. You know how that goes. I didn't want to do numbers, so yeah.
I can find it.
St. Clair J. Jay St. Clair.
I'm going to get it. It's at STJST Clair. It's St. Clair, St. Clair. It's not Sinclair. A lot of people get that wrong. So if you go to STJAYSTCLAIR, you'll get there. So
Yeah, Saint J. St. Clair. Okay, well that makes sense. Saint, but the Saint's abbreviated, so it's ST Saint and then my name J. St. Clair.
Well,
Okay,
this question for Jay. So it's kind of like you're calling yourself a saint. Now that I think about it.
Well, but when people call me Sinclair instead of St. Clair, my response to that, Matt, is, sir, I'm more of a sinner than a saint. But it's not Sinclair, it's St. Clair.
That's a good way of putting it. 0972. I don't have a name for this person, but they have written in with a question, and you're invited to write in your questions at 615-737-9986. Question for Jay. How do I get a lien on someone's property? I don't. That's all they ask.
That's an odd way to start the conversation. Well, the way you would do it, the most common way you would do it, is loan them money. They now are indebted to you, and liens are normally given to secure a debt, and so that's the most common way to get a lien. You don't.
Let's do it this way. I'm going to work on the assumption that this person owes that person money. And so I bet you somebody owes somebody money, so they want to know, how can I get a lien on the property to cover that?
You got to get them to sign an agreement. I mean, the way that normally works is when you loan them the money, they sign a lien on the property. They give you the lien. That's part of the transaction. It all happens at one time. If when you loaned them the money, you didn't get a lien, well, I suppose you can go back right now and try to get them to sign it. But if you don't have an agreement, I wish that I had more information because I'm not fully understanding the question. But I think the best way I can answer this question, the only way I know to get a lien is by agreement. Now, you can, if they owe you money and they don't pay it, you can go to court and sue them and get a judgment. And then you could, through that judgment, you could probably get a lien. Actually, what they do is they don't get a lien. They go sell the property. But right. I'd have to have a little more information.
Well, maybe the super texter is listening and they can just provide a little more context in the nature of the question. This one is interesting. John is a loyal listener to the show, and he's a loyal super texter, and I love John's super text from Lawrenceburg. And he has asked a question, and I'm just going to read it. Matt, I would be very interested to hear how Jay would defend the accused in Columbia.
You got to wrap yourself in the flag, John, and talk about the First Amendment. And my clients were not going to hurt anybody. They never intended to hurt anybody. And to violate this law, they have to unlawfully intimidate someone. They never saw these people. They were never face-to-face with them. They never said anything ugly to them. But they were just expressing their First Amendment right. There was a time in this country when we all believed this. I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Members of the jury, we still have freedom in this country. Freedom means putting up with things you don't like. You have to stand in line with Georgia fans to go get your high caffeine drink down to 7-Eleven. If we put up with that, then we can just put up with this sort of thing.
So and I like it. You understand juries more than anybody that I know, and I know I don't know another trial lawyer like I know you, but. So would you go ahead and take away, because the prosecution in a case like that, they're just going to talk about how disgusting and scummy these people are, yada, yada, yada. Right. You kind of take that away.
Well, what you do is you agree with it.
Yeah, yes.
What my clients did is awful, disgusting, and terrible. And I wouldn't blame anybody on this jury for hating them. I don't like it. There's nothing about what they did. You got to own it, man.
Right.
That's part of it. You got to own it.
Right.
The question is not whether what they did was right. That's not what we don't have to have a trial to decide that, members of the jury. Everybody in this courtroom knows what they did was wrong. We're not here about right or wrong. We're here about legal or illegal.
Oh, I love it.
In the face of the United States Constitution.
Love it.
I'm not saying what they did was right. I'm just saying it wasn't a crime.
Well, and I would imagine that's, kind of what the defense will be. And I think you're right. You've kind of flipped me in my thinking on this. That really large lettered "Be warned," and then they tell them later on, you got to change your ways.
No, the more I think about it and reflect on it, I'm absolutely satisfied that violates this law.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jay, let me see if I got one more here.
Hey, John, how'd I do on spur of the moment?
That's pretty good. That was pretty good. That was pretty good arguing to a jury right off the top of your head. I like that. Jay should read for Audible. Man, oh man, you're getting a lot of love today. I'm a Yankee guy, been down here for 13 years, and I specifically tune in on Friday, mainly for his accent, but also to me, it sounds like he's had a couple of drinks.
Well, I understand a couple of drinks, man, but I don't understand the accent. Every so often, people will say to me that, well, I like your accent. I sound like everybody I know sounds. Man, I don't think I have an accent.
I don't think you do either. Maybe a little one, but not much. And
well, I tell you what, when I was up there in New Haven, Connecticut, I got a lot of funny cereal. I got a lot of free beers too.
And just for and one of our listeners, 3455, the great Phil Valentine, who we lost in 2021, used to call them Van Gogh listeners, Jay. They're only listening with the one ear. So Jay was not defending those two individuals. He was asked if he had to defend them, how could he formulate a defense that would make sense? And that's what Jay was doing. So,
no, that's exactly right. And here's the equivalent of that. I was in Neyland Stadium one time, down in the south end zone where the players are going in the locker room. It's halftime now, and Coach Bryant was still coaching Alabama. I'm laying this as a predicate, and he was the last person walking off the field at halftime, and the Tennessee crowd stood up and gave him a standing ovation as he walked off the field.
Really?
I'll never forget that, man.
Oh, wow.
But just it was a remarkable, remarkable moment. And so what I was going to say, it's a prelude, so that gives me permission to say this, is I think Coach Bryan said this personally. He said, I'll take mine and beat yours, or I'll take yours and beat mine.
Yep.
You got to be able to take either one. So one of the real marks of a lawyer is, okay, argue this side, now argue the other side. It's in debate, right? In debate,
yeah. We used to do that in debate. When I was in debate for 5 years, and we would, as a training exercise, you'd have to flip. You'd spend about 30 minutes arguing one position, and then you argue the other position, and beat yourself.
That's how you learn it. And what we do when we're getting ready to try a big case, for a lot of money, we'll have mock juries, and a lot of times I'll go in and play the role of the plaintiff's lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the best ways to learn how to defend a case is to prosecute it. I mean, that's how you get better. Metal sharpens metal.
Well, I'll leave you with this, Jay, and because then we have to go. That one of our good mutual friends just said to me that Jay would be a dangerous criminal defense lawyer. And I agree with him.
Dolly Parton said that?
Yes.
Dang. I'm blushing, man.
Oh, well, you just let that carry you through the weekend, Jay. You'll play golf better than you ever have tomorrow morning. Thank you, my friend. I got a boogie. I appreciate you.